Good to go.
Awesome. All set. Got it.
Cool. So what's been coming through for you since our discussion yesterday?
I've just been downloading light codes. Really, they want me to work with the diamond light. So diamond light codes, very beautiful visuals with that, swirling galaxies moving through the body. It's really beautiful. Yeah. So that's really been it. I've just been doing activations and invocations and integrating. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I love the diamond light. I love the diamond light. Yeah, that's awesome. I'll post it later today, but I just had so much coming through for me that I wanted to discuss. I had to make my own video like an hour ago because I can't hold all of this in
Yeah.
before. But yeah, same thing, just downloading. And I kind of share about this in this video, but they're calling them the chameleon chords. And basically, I think I explained this yesterday, but I'll just go over it again in case I didn't. But we're now being downloaded almost with these light chords, these chameleon chords, these new rays of light, these new essences of being, because we have completed the full embodiment of this universal experience. So we've been, and this is why I'm doing that course in a few weeks with the universal light codes, because that's like the entire library of light codes. And we've downloaded all of those into our being, and those light codes act as anchors so that these chords can now come in and attach us to our new experiences. So basically, because we've done so much work releasing, cord cutting, clearing, detaching, now these cords have room to come in and attach themselves to our light codes to lift us up more and more into these higher energetic experiences, these galactic experiences, these instant manifestations, these like all of this newness that we're coming in. Because I was resisting identifying them, but they didn't feel like light codes to me anymore. And so this was like a new downloading experience that came through me yesterday. And the other interesting thing that I just feel like sharing is I've just been moving and playing with this energy, really working it through the lower half of my body. And as some of you know, I'm getting ready to move right now. I'm moving with my family, and in the 3D, we still don't necessarily have it confirmed where we're going to move yet. And I've felt so chill and so trusting about it up until today, because I think you can probably attest to this. Sometimes when you start getting these super high, fast energies coming through, the human can kind of get like anxious with it. So I was attaching anxiety to it today, quickly shut that down. And then I realized, like I actually got the full visual of my old cycle of moving with my family and all that karmic drama and that just like patterning. I just saw it as this like dark circle spiraling. And then I saw this new pattern that I'm imprinting in of a brand new different experience spiraling. And I just kind of what we were talking to yesterday about how you just intuitively know what you're supposed to do with your magic. I just like did this kind of shamanic breath work and handiwork in the shower today. That's when I had to go make a video, because all of a sudden my energy was clear again. So like all this stuff came through that I had to share. So just my energy update for the day.
I love that. What was coming through when you were saying that too is that we've upgraded beyond this dimensional experience altogether. So well, I mean, obviously we're not playing by the same rules, but we're really not playing by the same rules now.
Right.
Yeah, we're operating by a more advanced and complex pattern, which gives us more options and choices in our reality. And we can see those things show up very instantaneously. I wanted to ask you, how do you perceive the diamond light when you work with it?
Like actually visually, what comes through?
Visually and or how do you feel them? Yeah, I mean, whatever you got around that,
So,
however you experience them.
and I had it's not up on my website right now, but I had a meditation, a diamond photonic white light meditation, activation, whatever you want to call it, up for a while that a lot of people downloaded, and I even listened to it a few times just for myself, and it feels to me very light, very crisp, very clean, very pure, but it's like sparkly in energy to me,
Yes.
like as if my whole body was sparkling.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I mean, I see it as just like like almost like this color. I don't know if you can see it, like a canary yellow, like baby pink, like that white frosty blue, just super light in those colors and those frequencies. And I just see it like when you look at a diamond and you see just all those different particles of light bouncing off of the stone and feeling like that comes through. So it doesn't come through, you know how some energies come through and it's just like shh.
Yeah.
It comes through like a trickling energy, like a trickling of sparkles, but they're powerful.
Oh, I see.
It's not super, you know how some other energies are just like so soft.
Yeah, that's how I experience crystalline light. It's so fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So they come through for me like rich jewel tones.
Ooh, yeah.
And they always want to, well, I mean, they spiral and then I create a waterfall of light with them so that they can flush through really powerfully. But they're kind of like, I always see the Herkimer when I do it. And well, that's the one that they guide me to use to integrate the rest of the frequency is that Herkimer, that smoky quartz color to ground it in and integrate it all the way. But yeah, today it was so gorgeous. They were just these very rich, substance-rich jewel tones moving through all the chakra points. And, it was just gorgeous. And they wanted to spin in like galaxies because normally I get like a waterfall or like a rainstorm or a golden sun that just wants to be at all the main energy points in my body and then radiate out. But this one just wanted to spin in like a galaxy. It was so beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just wondering how you experience them. They seemed, well, I mean, I feel like I embody crystalline light, but they want me working with diamond. So, yeah.
Yeah, you should. I mean, you're open to the.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess to me, it's just all light and it all carries source code. I mean, that's the whole key to what they were wanting me to activate too, is the most expanded frequencies of source code that are available to be imprinted in the body. So yeah, it just happened to come through as diamond today. So I'm going to stick with it for a minute.
It's cool. I was kind of getting this download today because I was wondering for myself, like, why do I get these big universal energies? Why do I not identify with solely working with the individual frequencies that much, you know, because I saw somebody in my channeling course, she posted, I haven't watched it yet, she posted a video on working with, I want to say, the pink rose or the crystal rose. I think the crystal rose light. Just thinking about some people who really identify with like the diamond white light or the violet blue flame. And I work with and tap into all of those, but it's never just like one thing for me. And so I just was like wondering that, like what the importance of that was, and what came through was that there are definitely very specific people who are meant through to carry those more specific energies. And there's people like you and I who work almost like with everything basically on a more expanded level. And we act as like activators, facilitators, gatekeepers to help ground those in. But it just kind of made sense to me why some people do work and identify with more of those just super specific kind of like people who are like, oh, I only work with the Pleiadians, or I only work with the fairies, or whatever. I've always wondered, you know, like why.
Okay, well, so they're giving me a downloader on that right now. It's one, you're open and ready to receive the full spectrum of light. And some people just tune into very specific frequency bands because that's what they're open and ready for and have access to at that point in their journey. I mean, even when, and I know this is the same for you, when I'm pulling through diamond light or crystalline light or doing a rose heart activation, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just what they want me to use in that moment. And that shifts and changes all the time, depending on what's going on, what I need, what they want me to pull through. And then I just use those activations as I'm guided in my sessions with people. I let them flow right through. It's just second nature. And so they'll tell me what they need when we go in to do them. So it's beautiful to have access to all of them because ultimately, we are the embodiment of all of them, but we can tune ourselves to different frequency bands depending on what we want to create, what we want to manifest, what experience we want to have, what dimensional experience we want to have. So it's really up to us. I just pay attention when I meditate because when I meditate, they just start flooding me with, well, you know how it goes, with light codes and symbols and So I just let that come through as it wants to, and then I can use that for myself or other people as I'm directed to do so. So then you have the capacity to work with all the frequency bands and not just a specific one. I suppose some people want to master those specific tones too, but I'm sure it's the same way with you. It's just like it comes through so fast and you absorb it all and you get it and then you're ready for the next one and you don't need to take too much time.
That's exactly what it's like. And then, you know, in session with somebody, obviously whatever specifically needs to come through will automatically come through. They almost like they were giving me, kind of in reference to us today, galactic doctors or galactic is a little bit of what we are. You know, there's the very specific types of doctors out there. There's like the podiatrists, the urologists, there's this, there's that, and then we're just these galactic surgeons who pull through and bring in whatever needs to come in, or you know, I'm the same way. It's like everything comes through so fast, so clean, so pure. And I can see where this relates to my whole human experience, that I just never want to stick to one thing. Nothing ever just, you know, like it's not enough. I got it. I'm good. I understand it. I've got it. Okay, next.
Yeah, I feel that. It's the same way. That's funny because they're bringing me to relationships right now. Because we talked about this a few times, and it's always been my dream, you know, fairy tale romance, wedding, build an empire together, all of this. And they're like, is that really how your experience has worked? And it's not, because that's not like a possible thing that I could create, but it's just that, you know, you go into certain experiences and you grow and expand and evolve. And it's very rare that you meet someone who you can expand with so rapidly. And so it's just like that. Like you go into experiences with different people and you both receive what you're meant to receive from one another. And then you move into a new experience with new people. And it's kind of the same thing with the codes, except they're so much faster and they just kind of come in and you're downloaded with them and all the information that they carry and the gift of the connection to that frequency band and all that it has to offer. And it's now a part of you, and you know, and then they give you the next one and the next one and the next one. And I like that you said galactic doctors, because that's what it's like too, because when I'm working with specific people, they show me exactly what they need and what they're prepared to handle at that point in time, because I started to notice that even entering in the presence of certain people along my journey, like they couldn't, you said this, they couldn't orbit with me. They literally couldn't be in my orbit because it was too much. It literally just like, they're showing me like electricity, like it just jolted their system, and it was just too much to interact with that much light. And so it's, you know, it just really depends on who you're working with and what you're working on them. Yeah, what they're ready for, truly, like what they have the space and the clarity to receive. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started doing light work, I just started bombarding my system with everything. I didn't even care. It was like, listen to this one time a day. It's strong, it's potent, it's powerful. I would be like 10 times, let's do this. And I would just go in full force, and my system was able to receive it, albeit I have to be really cognizant of when I need to integrate and when I need to act, because same thing, like you were talking about anxiety earlier, and I don't sleep very much, and I have never really needed to sleep very much, but I do sleep periodically and space that out throughout my days. But I need smaller amounts of sleep at a time, and then that's spaced out. And sometimes, I mean, like last night, for instance, I went for a walk at 1:30 in the morning, and it's just that feeling of like, what day is it? What time is it? You know what I mean? And you can, because it runs through so fast and so clear all the time that you can just be awake for a very long time too. And it can induce that anxious feeling, but I think I'm so used to that by now that I've learned to direct that either into exhilaration or just clarity to create new things. So I utilize that time, especially because for me, I'm close to the city. I'm not directly in it, but I mean, I can walk to the top of my hill by my house. It's so beautiful. All the view is so beautiful. I see the whole city line, and there's a park up there. And I just think of how like sensitive I am to the energy of the city and people's mental noise. And at nighttime, they show me it just like the energy is like up and it's static and it's moving around and it's bouncing around and there's all these interference patterns happening. And at night, it just kind of settles to the bottom and everything is calm. And so I've always had an affinity for the nighttime. For that reason, it's so easy to create and to pull things through. And yeah, it's just calm.
Oh, I've always been a night owl. I've always, I did, well, now in my embodiment, I go through periods of where I do need lots of sleep and large chunks of time, because that's how I integrate, that's how I experience, that's how, and lately, I mean, I'm sure you've tapped into this too, like when we're sleeping, we're really just experiencing very clearly, very lucidly now, different realities and things like that. So I go through these different periods of, and it depends too, like how well have I been taking care of my energy? How much physical exertion have I had? And sometimes I need more, but sometimes I go through those periods too of like, I hardly need any energy, or I hardly need any.
No, we're just going to delete that. Of course you do. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I get you.
sleep. And I love the night. I love the night, and I actually really enjoy the morning.
Mm-hmm.
There's a period in the afternoon, though, where it's like, I just would love to pattern it out where, like, I just sleep during those times and I stay up all night into the morning and then I sleep. And
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how that goes for me. I just listen to my body, and I'm very fortunate that I'm afforded the luxury to do that in my life, is that I can wake up when I want to wake up and go to bed when I want to go to bed, and schedule sessions when I want to schedule sessions, and rest when I want to rest, and all of that, which is such a huge gift. I remember when I was growing up, that was the one thing I didn't understand about school and all of that. I was like, why does somebody tell me when I have to wake up? My body is not ready to wake up right now. Why do I have to do this? And so I always wanted to have that spatial freedom, that time freedom. And so, yeah, so now I get to do that. So I just listen, and I don't worry about what the rest of the world is up to. I just, tune into what I need when I need it, and trust that. And that's a huge part in keeping my energy levels balanced too, is following that flow and knowing when I tend to do better, which is in the evenings, which is why we record these later in the day, because we're both, evening birds, night owls.
Yeah, it's just almost like your energy can expand more at night because the rest of the world is like shut down and the hustle and bustle is shut down. So it's just, for me, it's like, I can breathe, I can explore, I can take over. This is my night. This is my energy. The stars are out. Like, it's time to play.
Yeah, absolutely. You can fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so expansive, and it's so easy. It's the veil is much thinner between worlds too. So the mysteries come through really beautifully at night, and it's so easy to tap into because the energy is so open. You can just relax into it and receive and explore, and yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and as we're talking, I think it's really important too, just to bring up the subject of like, this is why and where you really need to let go of what you've been told or what you've been taught or what your judgment is around your standards for living and your standards for health and your habits and your patterns. Because, and I was starting to say this months ago, but like all of that evidence, everything that we know to be true about health and the physical body and so on, it's going out the window. I mean, there's we're literally morphing into new beings, essentially. Thinking that all that old stuff, just because there's science to prove it, is really gonna like make sense to this new embodiment. No, and you have to be fluid and balanced with the energy, and so much of what we believe we're supposed to do to stay healthy. I mean, some of it still stands true, obviously, but a lot of it, is it based on energy? No, it's not based on energy. It's not based on the embodiment of the most energy or the most crystalline experience. It's based on like, well, my guides are being snarky. They're saying it's fiction. It's based on
it's true. It's true.
There.
Yeah, it's just, and they were just showing me, well, it's because they were looking for that proof. They were looking for that evidence. And so that's what they found. It's so imperative to listen to ourselves. That's number one. Listen to yourself, and allow everybody else to make the choices that suit them, but you don't have to make those same choices, and you certainly don't have to fall into any groupthink around all of that. You know what's healthy and balanced for you. I think is it healthy? Is it balanced?
Not just like noticing little things of like, well, I should go to sleep, or I should eat something, or I should go for a walk or whatever. And it's like, well, maybe you should, technically speaking, from the old reality, but does your energy feel like it? Is it going to support it? And to some extent, that's in play. But to some extent, you do have to almost forward think about sustaining that energy, because how many times do I know going for a walk is going to keep me, vibrating at a certain level, but I don't really want to. So, I guess what I'm saying is find the balance in that.
Well, they're saying pay attention to your energy levels. And another thing too is that when you're tapped into this energy and it's flowing free and clear and you don't have those impedances or those resistances to the energy flowing anymore, that becomes a form of sustenance for you. Like the more open and clear my channel becomes, the less I need to eat and the less I need to sleep. And I'm not suggesting that anybody just like hop in and start doing that, but that's how it functions in my reality. The energy and the magic of life is like sustenance to my soul, to my heart, to my mind, to my body. I mean, I find myself, there's something when I was in the bodybuilding community that this is called, but I forget. I think it's like a way to start a ketogenic diet actually. But I usually fast for half a day. It's just all liquids. It's just so much water and until about 2 in the afternoon, and my body does really well with that. But it's just, you know what I mean? It's just about listening to yourself, because how many things out there will say that it's so imperative to eat breakfast first thing in the morning because your body has been sleeping all night and it needs something to get its energy going. Sometimes that actually slows me down. Like in the morning time, if I feel myself getting hungry, I just have fruit, like berries, grapes, things like that. And that feels good. But yeah, it's just really about listening to yourself and what you need, and your body too. Your body is just such a profoundly powerful, well, one, psychic tool is what they're saying, and 2, compass for you. And you can use your body as your compass for everything. Like, how do you feel around certain people? How do you feel when you eat certain foods? How do you feel when you do certain activities? How do you feel when you go certain places? Do you want to continue doing that or not? And only you can check in with yourself and let yourself know if that's something that you want to do, you're prepared to do, you're energetically strong enough to do, it doesn't resonate with you at all, you know what I mean? Instead of getting stuck on, Right. And then it's about transferring that kind of mentality or that that way of living into all areas of life too. So what they're bringing me to now is abundance, because man, the way that we create abundance is so different. I mean, probably not from everybody, but I imagine from a large portion of the populace, and it works. And a really beautiful, I'm realizing the other day, I was like, I think I manifest better in my own energy, because for the longest time I thought that I really wanted, and it's so funny, so I'm just going to say this because we're here now, but for the longest time I thought I wanted a life partner to manifest with, because it would amplify things so much. And it's so perfect, because then the universe brought us together. I'm like, this is so much better than trying to make this work with.
I know.
It's just so much. It's like perfect because it's so aligned. We're on the same page. We can talk about all our crazy shit and, and get the downloads together and move at the same pace and keep going forward and lift each other up. And it's perfect that it manifested in that way. And I was realizing that when I'm not in those scenarios, like tying relationship and business together into one grouping, I manifest so freaking good on my own. I mean, although when I am in a really good relationship, that also enhances my manifesting abilities, just because, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing to realize, people, is, again, everything is energy. So if something's going on in one area of your life, it's going to be going on in all areas of your life, or you're going to have a push and pull between them. I mean, that used to be my experience, was either I was doing great in my relationship but sucking in my finances, or doing great in my finances and sucking in my relationship because I still had so much attachment to detach from and codependency and just shit around like abandonment, like just all that crap. So if anything, yeah, I mean, you should be flourishing in all areas of your life, right?
Yeah.
Like the other thing I did notice too, and I want to point this out because I was, was having a conversation with somebody about this earlier today on how, yeah, we still have an ego inside of our bodies, and it needs something. Otherwise, it's going to pick something for itself, and you're probably not going to like it. So you can't just try to starve the ego. It's gonna find something to pick at and create drama because. And I like to look at it this way. I like to look at it as it's bored. It's just like, it's bored. It needs some entertainment, right? And so typically it creates entertainment for us that is really catastrophic or emotional or destructive or painful or whatever. So we were talking yesterday about the parts of our magic and manifesting that we're playing with. I've also been playing with this over a few months of consciously creating distractions or entertainment for my ego, because otherwise it gets in the way, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. And homie, don't play. I'm not playing like that anymore.
Oh God, I love you. Oh man. It's so funny because I was thinking, like, for me, that's my shadow. That's my shadow, my dark little tigress, and she wants to come out and play, and she's like, ooh, what's fun? What's exhilarating? What's, I think to me, I see the ego as like identification with certain parts of our personality. So like thinking we are a certain part of our personality, but sometimes I just want to have those more exhilarating, risky, edgy experiences.
Yeah.
Because I just want that. And so I just let myself choose that. But that's just like that part of me that likes to play in the shadows a bit. But I'm prepared for it now. It's not like, I'm not sure what might come. And so it's like, it's almost like a conscious participation in those things. And I don't go into it with fear now, whereas I used to go into it with fear. And I think that that's what creates the catastrophe. Oh, it's so funny. Your face. Oh man. But I think going into it with fear is what creates the catastrophe. And like you were saying, that could be around the codependency. But for me, it wasn't that. It was that my freaking partners had a codependence on me to make them happy. And I got like all entangled in that. And for me, it was about not giving a fuck and being myself anyways. Yeah. And not being, because it'd be like, well, you need to do this way. And I was like, okay, no. Yeah. I mean, I'm always open to insights and opinions around things. But when you're trying to forge those two things of your life together with somebody else who like is equally as powerful and equally as strong as you are, and they have things set up in their way that works for them, trying to merge and meld that together can be such an interesting dance. And so for now, this feels really fucking good to me, but I'm still open to the potential of that occurring in my life where those two things get married together as one. But when you've got two power players working together,
yes,
it can be an interesting thing if you're not already on the same page, right? Everybody's highly successful at what they're doing, but just in different ways. And it's you either figure out how to merge those things or you keep those areas of your life, separate from each other, not separate energetically, but actually separate from like dipping your feet into those things with your partner, because it does affect the whole field. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and same thing. I was wanting to manifest that. I mean, I have a partner right now, and this would definitely not be the thing to create or co-create with him.
Yeah.
He's equally as powerful, but but he wants to create in different ways on different levels, and we will create something someday. But time,
Child.
yeah, I was sick of doing this alone, and I had really big, well, we both had pretty much the same big visions,
Yeah.
that we needed each other's energy, I think, to balance it out, and just make that a whole. It's more fun, right? And
Oh,
that,
it's way more fun.
I think that's part of where our call to create the inner circle came from, is because everybody's feeling this call towards more community and more support, that we like
Yeah.
don't want to do it. At the end of the day, it's boring just doing it all on your own. And
Yeah. I was like, I want someone to play with.
yeah, we can shift so much faster when we
Yes.
have that like
Oh,
expanded but succinct container to just elevate from, rather than like you just standing in the middle, like trying to,
yeah.
oh, I'm gonna lift off now, I'm gonna take off now. Oh, like one jetpack versus seven. It's like, what's gonna lift
Right.
higher, faster?
That's great. They just showed me like a rocket ship taking off.
Yeah.
It's great. And that's like what happens too. And it's, I mean, to me, it just feels more fulfilling. It feels more fulfilling. And I was desiring that in a romantic partnership. And I am just totally, like, I'm thankful that it came through in this way. I'm so thankful that it came through in this way, because now those areas of my life, which are now flourishing for that reason, can be what they are and have their own special space, right? And it doesn't have to be, and if it does at some point, then that's great, but right now, no. Like, I don't just no.
Yeah.
Like, that's the passion in a different way.
I was thinking that. It was like, well, I like to embody different energies in my relationships and in that dance. This is a different dance to me, where I'm embodying energy of myself. I'm expanded in all versions, yes, but is this exactly who I like to be with when I'm relating or co-creating with my romantic partner? No, I like to be a little bit more softer sometimes, or I like to be a little bit more risky, but in different ways. And so that's why this is so divine, because I think we're both in our empowerment that does help us create in these things in this way.
Yes, absolutely. And that's so perfect. I'm thankful you said that, because that's kind of where that happens, like being in that, being in the more feminine aspect, and then being able to fully embody our masculine in this as and when we need to, without having it be like a power play that's happening, because it's like, well, when you show up in business, you have to embody that part of yourself. Like, there's no like, you can't not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so it's just having the freedom and the open, like the free reign to do that, be that, embody that, and feel really empowered and secure and solidified in that, and not having to worry about, well, is my partner going to think that I think that blank, 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 or are they receiving me in this way because I'm just down to business right now? Or can this be objective because that's what it needs to be? And so there's none of that happening. And I think it's really beautiful when I see couples do that together. But I think that, especially for you and I, because of how powerful we are, like, I'm not going to allow anyone or anything in my experience, period, to like hold me back from being in the total sum embodiment of who I am. And I need to show up in different ways at different times, and I need to have freedom to do that. And so that was like always the biggest thing for me, is that it was like not necessarily I mean, I feel like I give people their freedom for sure, because I know what it's like to not have mine, but then it would be a little bit that making people insecure when I'm in my full power. And so me either making myself small in order to not make that being feel bad, or me internalizing that, or whatever. But that's a non-issue anymore, but that was kind of the dynamic that was playing out there for a while, trying to make that happen in that way. Hey, like, can't we all just be our damn self? Like, oh man.
Yeah. And I feel if you are in a relationship right now and you are going through these shifts and these changes, it's really important to not react to your current experience or how that other person is reacting to you, because energetically you're just ebbing and flowing. You're just needing space as you expand into more of your empowerment. They may react, they may not react, but they're also needing that. If you're growing, they're inevitably going to grow, but they need to continue to do that. So, like, I used to get triggered in a relationship when I'd go through these shifts and changes because I wasn't fully aware. I wasn't fully embodying. And so I would react and I would like cause all this chaos and make it about all these different things when really all it was I'm just shifting into more power. I'm embodying more light. This other person is inevitably doing the same. We need a little energetic space from each other while that happens so we can come back and co-create and relate in a new way. And what I'm being called to help you guys realize whoever's watching this is that this is happening constantly on a very rapid like pace. So it's every few weeks. It's not every few years. It's not every few months. It's every few weeks. It's every few days. So like, you do the dance, like you were telling me the other day. Do the dance, but do the dance in a new way.
Right, and also like your partner has to be willing to dance with you.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's like a huge, that's a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Without fear, because it is so accelerated. And this is where it's really important for each person in the context of a really healthy, functional relationship to be fully in their power and sovereignty so that they don't need something from you. They don't need you to validate them. They don't need you to be their source of happiness. They don't need to like fit you into their tiny little box in order to self-satisfy. Mm-hmm. It's like they already know how to do that. They know how to be their own inspiration. They know how to be their own power source. They know how to be their own, creator. And so then the coming together is really just such a gift and a bonus. It's like icing on the cake because it's like, okay, cool. Like here's this being in their sovereign power and this being in their sovereign power. And then we can play together and do this together. And I think that just relates back to how we feel about ourselves in our own lives. Hey, how well we're able to do that dance with one another, because when you're good here, you can allow other people to have the freedom that they want to live and be and do. And then you just automatically create that space for that person.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And then you're okay with like, and this is another part of this. And I think this is the part that most people fear. But if you do evolve out of each other's orbit, like letting that be okay. Mm-hmm. And if you can stay dancing together, then that's beautiful too. Mm-hmm. There's no attachment to whatever happens there, because sometimes that happens, right? Like you evolve in and out of, that's the dance. That's the nature of the dance. You evolve in and out of different everything, different creations in your own life, different relationships, they're saying like, even just like at the level, like different styles, different interests, different everything, and just letting that all be so open and fluid and doing that dance.
Well, that's us embodying our multidimensional experience. That's us embodying all of our power, all of our truth, all of our magic, all of our different parts of our whole, of ourself, is allowing that to be our experience. Fluid, flow, intuitive, nonstop, creative energy, full force, like not impeding that. And that means allowing that every hour, every minute, every day, every week. It's never, like I remember when I used to make very concrete identity shift. Like I'm talking back.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Back when, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna be emo now, and it's just happening, and that's just who I am, and whatever, right? It would take so long for me to get there, and then that was my decision, and then I was stuck to it. I was addicted to it, right, for so freaking long, so that the next shift I wanted to go into, I would resist for so long because I would think that I would have this mentality of like, it's like a forever, it's like a completion, it's this. And that's not how we exist anymore. You need to be, and you get to be whoever you want to be, whatever parts of yourself you want to be, every single minute of every single day of every single hour. And it's important to have a partner who can accept and appreciate that. That doesn't want you to be just the one thing or just the one person. I mean, that wants to appreciate and allow you to be all of your energies, and then vice versa for them.
Yeah, and they're saying too, they're like, that's what keeps it spicy.
Yes!
That's what keeps it fun and flavorful. And you know what I mean? Like, you'd get so bored if there wasn't that playful back and forth and that, like, that shifting around. And I like that you said, well, because this ties back into that chameleonic energy that you're speaking to, where it's really just being in these different embodiments of self. Like, I mean, dear Lord, sometimes I'm just so in my divine child. Like earlier today, I was just like, can we go get ice cream? And I was just being such a kid, and I was loving every second of it. And sometimes I'm in my like fierce, powerful priestess energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing invocation so strong, you know, it's just like, and there's just so many different embodiments, you know, when you're in your soul, and when you're in that magical part of you, and the mysterious part of you, and, you know, the sexy, playful part of you, like all the different parts of you that want to come out at different times, and just flowing with that and letting that be okay. Like, that's fun to me. Like, I don't want to be the same thing all the time, but I know what you're speaking to. And I think a lot of men do this. And this is what I've witnessed within the context of certain relationships, not like looking to make their next level of expansion this concrete thing that they could spell out and look at and identify with and see themselves as, and being fixed in that, and not recognizing that the evolution is to not get fixed on any one of those things, but to be what you're being called to be from moment to moment to moment. And then the evolution naturally unfolds itself. You naturally expand into the truth of all that you are. And when you allow your authentic expression to come through from moment to moment to moment, you don't just decide what you want your identification to be and then hold fast to that one thing. And so what I would see happen is they would be like, yes, I want this. And it would get them like this high, and they'd be exhilarated. They'd be like, I want to be this embodiment. And they would go into that embodiment, and then they would realize the incompleteness of that. And then they would quickly be dissatisfied and not understanding why, because they weren't allowing themselves to go into all the multiple dimensions and expressions and embodiments of self, and letting that be okay, and recognizing that like the big vision unfolds out of that. So, I mean, and that's okay. Like, if that's that's something that you like to do, I think that's very, so they're saying boxy,
boxy.
This very dense, like third dimensional, like this is who I am, and this is who I'm going to be, and this is who I'm going to identify myself as, and it's going to be fixed in that way. Let that shift and grow and evolve and change and transform. And wherever you're at now, whatever you want to identify with now, and that's the job of the ego, that's the purpose, that's the beauty of the ego, is that it gives us a sense of identity. It allows us to choose a sense of identity. But we don't have to be so stuck on what that is, right? We are all the things, ultimately, on the greater scale of things. I mean, imagine if I just embodied my divine child all the time, or if I just right,
slap you silly.
Right, exactly. Like, and there's so many different right, or even if I was just in that fierce priestess energy all the time too, that would get like, you know, I mean, that was something that I was experiencing a little while back. Like there's that overly serious energy, and it took me a minute to get out of that, because I was just surrounded by a group of people that was like that with the spiritual stuff. And it was just so heavy. It was so heavy. I'm like, I felt like I was a kid in church or something, and I'm like looking around, and I like wanted to be like the person who jumped up and yelled in the middle of just to be
Yeah.
a loving antagonist, to break up that energy a bit, because it was too dense.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but
when I first like started exploring spirituality, it's almost like I only saw or witnessed two prevalent spectrums. One, that very like serious, ominous, this is all it is, like just that energy. And then this other energy that I just like, it just turned me off so much that live in joy. Live in just be in joy. Just joy. I was like, oh my God, I don't even like that word. I mean, yeah, I use it all the time, right? But it just, because they're so, and it's funny that, I just have to say, it's funny that I'm about to, it's so one-dimensional. Because I have many different names for my partners based on the different embodiments he chooses all the time, and we kind of joke with each other like that. And one of his ones currently has been one-dimensional Dimitri. He's never gonna watch this, but I find it funny that it's like coming through as like, yeah, they were really one-dimensional. So.
Yeah, and I mean, that's how it can be sometimes when we don't just allow ourselves to flow.
Yeah.
And I used to drive myself. I mean, I think that was part of my own self-imposed prison too, is because I was like, oh, these are what like spiritual characteristics are. This is what spiritual embodiment looks like. And if I wasn't being that, or if I wasn't constantly having a mystical experience, I thought something was wrong, like seriously awry. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck am I not having a mystical experience right now? Because it became a norm for a while there. Yeah. And I mean, I was having extreme mystical experiences too. So we're talking about just like floods of data coming in. And like there's, for most people, it'd be like system cannot compute. And I was wanting that constantly because it was just so, I mean, it was so magical and so revelatory. And I would just go to these like highs, you know? Yeah. And so I was constantly like seeking that out. And if I wasn't having that, I wanted to know what was up, you know? And now it's just all about living in the energy of creation. Like abundance has been my thing for a while now. And I anticipate myself focusing on it for quite some time, because it's just such, I mean, abundance is source energy, but it's like tapping into that stream, alignment, abundance, like creative source energy, and just having that flow and having all the ideas and the revelations coming in a constant stream, but not needing it to be this like super pronounced, intense, mystical awakening every couple of days.
Right.
Oh.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I think trying to, well, and it's funny because I see in a lot of spiritual communities too, like embodiment is the thing. And I don't think they even have they don't have an understanding of what embodiment actually is. It's just like a human story that they've made up around what it means to be an embodied spiritual person. And I'm like, embodiment is embodying everything that you are. I mean, it's all the different multiple dimensions and aspects of who and what we are. That's constantly changing, but it's the willingness to shift in and out of those different embodiments. It's not a preset of rules and standards and identifications and ways of being that have been prescribed for us. And that's what most people look at. This is what a spiritually evolved person or a priestess shows up as. Like, these are the set of
rules.
This is my box that I need you to fit in so that I can stay comfortable and feel.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, anytime, like I'll speak to when we go through those experiences of just like absolute pure divine bliss. To be honest with you, because you are still having a human experience, you can get bored in that. after a while.
Yeah.
Because then stagnation. It becomes the essence of what it is not. It becomes almost like stagnation. And so that's the whole concept of stepping into polarity rather than duality, because then you get to still feel and encompass all these different vibrations, and underneath them all is enjoyment and pleasure in the experience, when perhaps the same experience or vibration used to bring you displeasure or pain or you know.
Yeah, and that's part of that full-on integration too, because it's like stuff that I used to fear just doesn't even, you know, like to just, you know, it's like, okay. Like it doesn't even and then when you were first saying that, what was coming through, what was the first part of that sentence that you said? Not with duality and polarity.
Boredom.
Oh, yeah. So being in that space, they brought me back to that space. And it was kind of like sitting in the nirvana of it and being in the bliss of it and feeling the sheer joy of connection, or the sheer just orgasmic bliss, and feeling that frequency so strong. And that's what it was. And my being, I remember my being like, okay, cool, I'll come back in a little bit, but I want to go try this other thing over here. Because I knew that I could go back to that space whenever I wanted to go back to that space. And I just wanted to have a different experience. It's not that one was like, I mean, it was fucking amazing, right? Like that's like the peak of collective self-realization and embodiment. But or actually, I mean, that's true self-actualization, taking it out of like the third dimensional context of self-actualized. What does it mean to be a self-actualized being in earthly terms? Like that's what self-actualization actually is, at a collective level. And it was just being in that nirvana, and then just recognizing I want something different. And it didn't, and that was okay. And that's why most of us choose to come out of that space and into a human body in the first place, so that we can experience something new.
Yeah.
So that we can make new choices and discover new things about ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's the fun of being a creator, right? Is that you always get to choose something different, and you don't have to stay with anything fixed. You don't have to just be like this very specific embodiment for the rest of your life. I mean, that was the one thing that I could never really quite wrap myself around, like going to college and getting a job for 30 years and doing the same thing. Like,
oh God, no.
I know. I was like, I can't do this. This is not happening in my life. Like that would be like, for me, that would be a form of death.
Yep.
In and of itself. Like there's just no freedom for the soul.
Yeah.
In that to live and to create and to express itself in the way that it wants to. It's like being in some type of societal prison.
Oh my God, it is. It is. I just had a conversation with some random person in the gym yesterday where we were talking just about that, on why him and his wife started their own business together, was because it's like, I mean, are we really still playing into this bullshit? Like, is that really what you're going to live for? And how you're like, what if, you know, playing with the concept of what if none of these societal rules and constructs and cultural rules and constructs existed? Then what would life be? What would life look like? What would the meaning of it be? I'm sure it wouldn't mean sitting in traffic to go to your 9 to 5 that you're okay on, and the pay is okay, and then you go home and you're tired and you go through the same routine and you plan what you're going to do on the weekend on Monday, and then that's all you're going to look forward to, and blah 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 blah. And you know, like, it's just, I had so much guilt around that for so long, because I mean, you and I, all of us, we're very intelligent, right? It's usually something that happens to us that causes us to dumb ourselves down, or some sort of judgment or whatever. And I was always told and brought up, like, you're so smart, because I was in all the advanced classes and blah, 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 blah. But at a very young age, I consciously started to basically, like, not excel in school anymore because of judgments on my upbringing and my lifestyle for attention, so I could fit in because I didn't fit in, blah, 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 right? And I ended up only, like, I've been to community college 3 different times for almost like a semester at a time. I didn't go to school. I didn't apply for any of the major schools. I like got kicked out of all the great classes or whatever. And it wasn't until recently that I realized, like, I still was holding on to so much judgment and pain around that experience and guilt. And so, like, I released that energy, but I guess I'm bringing that up. Well, that's also why, I mean, obviously it was to help me wake up, so to speak, but that's why I struggled in my business when I first started, was holding on to so many of those judgments on what it had to look like, and how, like, now this had to be my fast track to success, and I had to make it, and I had to prove myself, and it had to be something that was good enough and would make people's approval, which is exactly why I went to my Life Coach Institute, because it was me bargaining with myself on, like, okay, you're not going to go to school and get a psych degree because that's basically going to do nothing for you now. You've seen this happen to all of your friends. So why don't you go to life coaching school? Because it sounds good enough. It's playing it safe. It's legit enough. Like, you can make money. Like, that was my third dimensional programming leading me down that path, because it was like, I never was going to fit into that box of college, career, salary, 9 to 5, this, that. I knew it, but I felt so bad and disappointed in myself, and that I disappointed so many other people around me, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway.
Well, you didn't disappoint them. You disappointed their safety.
No, exactly, 100%. Or their identification of themselves in me.
Right. Or that too, that vicarious living. Hey. Yep. That was a dynamic that played out in my family. And, I always did well in school, and I had some really great jobs too. And I always was, in management. So I had, like, a level of leadership wherever I was, but I just realized that I could only go so far within the context of that, and that there would be a cap for me. Yeah. And I didn't want that. And I also couldn't stand the monotony of that way of living. Like, it felt so hellish to me. And that's where I really started to, like, break free from those constructs and those templates and those paradigms, and to really pave my way. And it was not easy by any stretch of the imagination. It was not easy to break free from all of that. It was not easy to build what I've built. But there was such a strong desire for freedom that I just had to, I started out with some faith. Truly, that's how I started. I started out with trust. That's all I had to start on, trusting that I would be universally supported. I had a really solid relationship with what I considered God at the time, or source. And that's what I went on. I was like, okay, it's you and me. And I didn't realize at the time it was really me and me, me and expanded me. But same deal. And we just had each other's backs, and that's how that went. And I started breaking through all those paradigms. And I remember even when I was in school, when I was in college, thinking, like, I felt like I was being taught common sense. And if I wasn't being taught common sense, I was being taught something that was completely and utterly irrelevant to what I needed to accelerate and advance myself in the way that I wanted to. And I was getting more from the time that I was taking to study my personal interests and the things that were coming in. And, I would get back, and I would be reading all these other books that had nothing to do with my courses. And I remember, I did well. And I remember there was, like, a attendance thing, right? Like, if you don't go to X amount of classes, they would drop your grade. Yeah. And I would just risk it. I would just turn in all my assignments. I would go in on the test days, pass my tests, and I just wouldn't show up. And I would do what I wanted to do in my spare time. And then I would, like, find myself bargaining with the teacher at the end of the semester. Yeah. And it always worked. But at a certain point, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. It's not feeding my soul. I don't want to invest in this. And at this point, it's just even it makes me sad that people don't realize that they have other options, and that there's so much freaking more that's available to them than that. And I think that so many people obviously are catching on to that and are starting to shift their lifestyle. I mean, I think the percentage of entrepreneurs now is higher than it's ever been, and it's just going to continue expanding. But, you know, I mean, freedom, ultimately underneath all of that, the desire is for freedom at every single level of your being. And that was a drive for me. I wanted to be free. I mean, I think that was like a whole thing for my life, like whether it was familial lineage, like patterns that were tied in with my lineage, mental, emotional patterns that I brought in from other experiences. Like it was just always breaking free, whether it was physically on the physical plane or spiritually on the spiritual plane. And yeah, so hey, here we are, freedom. Finally, after all these years.
No, see, that was always my drive, was just like, I just wanted to feel free, right? So I want to mention something really quick before we go that's like, it's still on topic, but it came up way earlier, but they're wanting me to bring it through. And yeah, I mean, it does relate to what we're talking about. So we're talking about definitely relates to like making money and stuff. So, but what they're wanting me to pull through is just a reminder that be in the co-creative dance with money, accepting, receiving, creating money as an artist. So going back to what we were saying about like all our different personalities and facets, like artists are constantly just not giving a fuck, basically, you know, like
lovingly not giving a fuck.
Yes. Right, like you can't you like, you know, they may be kind of this and painting this for 5 years, and then all of a sudden they shift into this or whatever. Like they're just being that chameleon that is their true self, that is their channel. And what our guides are saying to remind you all is be who you are in that state of abundance. Be who you are in that state on how you create wealth, how you grow, how you shift, how you change, and your finances. Like if you've always done it one way and that's kind of feeling stale or you're plateaued or it's boring or whatever, play with your systems, play with your strategies, play with your streamlines and how you bring more abundance in. I mean, think about it like you're painting a canvas, an abstract canvas, but you've been painting the same landscape for years, and it's just like you anymore. So just some little food for thought, a little shift in our brain waves for that.
That, and to like really fucking go all in on yourself. Yeah. And trust yourself and believe in yourself and know that you have the power and the potential and the capacity to create what it is that you want, and to not allow somebody else's rules that are essentially set up and designed to keep themselves comfortable. It's all that is. Like, I need you to follow by this set of rules because that's what keeps me comfortable. That's what keeps me safe. That's what keeps me feeling a little bit peaceful and in control of things. I'm going to need you to oblige, and so that I don't have to go within and do my own spiritual work, and to break through all of that and live on your own terms, create on your own terms, and know that you have the power and the ability to do that in whatever area of your life you want to do that in. You know, relationships don't have to look like the same old traditional relationships that you've been brought up to believe in. You don't have to run your business in the same old traditional way that you've been taught to run your business. And so I'm getting a massive download around this, and we can talk about this tomorrow, because this is what's been integrating over the past couple of days, where they've just kind of had me in the space. But we are literally shifting into, I mean, this is a whole different dimension of using our, I'm going to call them superpowers, so to speak, the capacity to phase realities in and out like that. Like those, everything that we've been speaking to right now, it's like those frequencies, those realities don't, like none of that is in my existence. Like none of those rules still apply. None of those, like I don't play by those rules, period, in any area of my life. It like at the most basic level, right, of like what is required. you know, to be a human being functioning on planet Earth, like the most bare minimal levels of doing those things. And other than that, like, we're in a completely different dimensional experience, and things operate differently here. You phase things in, you phase things out. It's simple, it's fun, it's magical, and you can create like that. You can just open your channel wide to receive what you want, and you don't have to do anything except course source energy, except flow source energy. That's it. Everything else goes out the window when you're working with that, when you're working with that energy.
Exactly.
Unless you want to play by some rules and they turn you on and light you up and all of that, and that's fine too. But I highly recommend mapping out your own set of rules and values and meanings and desires, and doing whatever you can to create a life that is molded around that and not anything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Boom. Cool.
All right, love bug.
All right, let's go. Thank you, everybody who's joined. We'll respond to your comments later. Love you lots. And we'll probably just continue on this tomorrow. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, I love you. I will talk to you either tonight or tomorrow.
Deal. All right. Love you.
All right. Bye.